Hey everybody, Brian here for Worked Game, and once again, I'm excited to bring you another Q&A video, pretty much from you to me, right back to you. So, it's obviously been a very exciting week. Not only obviously did we have the keynote, but everybody who's been so active on the channel, and also, just welcome to all our new subscribers. Really just blown away by the volumes that we've seen over this last week. So, thanks and welcome. If you haven't seen one of our QA videos yet, pretty much right now, you guys kind of post questions or comments on the various videos. I love reading all of them, and I just kind of go through, and in this case, there's so many comments. I was just overwhelmed, so I had to kind of pick several that I thought were interesting and one that continue that conversation about with you guys. So with that, I'm probably going to butcher your names, so apologies in advance for that. So let's go ahead and get started, and let's have some fun. So regarding kind of like the video for my hopes for Stormblood, we had a lot of really good comments. First one up is Lothar Axe. Yes, I think I got it. Anyway, I think you're spot on with the issue, and there is something almost every single MMORPG does. When you enter a dungeon in which that exactly everything that's ahead of you, where is the fun? After a few times, you don't even think anymore. You play like you're a robot. The thing about RPGs back then, and I must point specifically to the dungeon crawlers, was that you would enter a catacomb that you could see maybe about 10 feet ahead of you, and you'd have no map, and then you would have to find the exit. You didn't know where the monsters were, and you didn't know which monsters were there. You didn't even know if there were monsters at all. All you had was the sound of the drops of water coming from the ceiling, dropping close to that skull in the ground that had some nasty marks and a key by its side. Explore, find your way out of the maze. The thrill comes from the unknown. And MMORPGs completely abandoned those core concepts of older RPGs, sadly. Final Fantasy XIV's been tackling the issue with some of its content, like the Palace of the Dead, but it still has most of its content with a fixed experience. Whenever you have content that doesn't vary and doesn't randomize, you'll get tired of it eventually, even if you still enjoy the combat system. I think that they have to rework Dungeons and Fates to make them have randomized monsters and objectives up to a certain extent. You also cited Rift. It would be great if we could jump from fate to fate just like we can in Rift with world events. That would make fate grinding more accessible. Well, thanks. Excellent comments. And I agree with you, especially on that sense of exploration. And so, like I did mention, obviously the Palace of the Dead has some of those elements, but you're moving from room to room, and it's pretty much set what you might expect. It's very interesting. I'm actually very happy with the content. Could it always be better? Do I always want more? Well, absolutely. However, a couple of things I'd like to kind of point out is that I would love to see something kind of like you described, where it's you don't know what you're walking into. I don't know how difficult that is. I've worked in a development role and actually trying to do kind of random generation of terrain, and that's rather difficult. Some game designers and developers have really mastered that, and that's actually what I turn to kind of help get that figured out as well. And so when it comes to all of that, random is like you said, there is that exciting element to it. Couldn't agree more. When everything is changing, it feels that way, like the roulettes and things like that. It's the same thing. You know what to expect. There's a comfort that comes along with that. There's a comfort that comes hand in hand with the fact that, okay, here's what we're going to do. And I'm actually not going to knock that content. There should be content that is designed around, okay, this is the couple ways that you can go about the approach and to achieve your victory in your mission. So I don't know if necessarily I would go all and say all the fates and dungeons currently in the game need to be reworked to have more randomized approach. I could see that maybe that they can seem to make either more attractions or introduce more stuff like that can really hopefully sink its teeth into to get that feel. But I don't know. I'm going to put this out to the community. What do you guys think regarding kind of reworking fates and the dungeons existing already in the system. Is that something that you guys want or not? So anyway, for Lothrax, a great comment. I definitely agree with the kind of the feel and the emotion that you have for that, especially that whole catacomb that you don't know where the exit is. That means you really do explore, and every time you go in, the exit isn't where it is. So you really lose out on that. But there's a lot of things they can do, and man, I could talk about just this idea all day. You bring up some really good points, and go from there. Now, I think from when I was just actually before I move on, talking about Rift, I was talking about, I think, the rifts within Diablo. And if I'm mispronouncing or misremembering how it worked, but as you would get these particular items, you could open up these rifts, you would go in them, and you would progress level after level after level as far as you could get, and then you were kind of scored or ranked. I did play Rift back in the day for a little while, so I do remember a little bit of that as well, and I thought it was interesting, and I think definitely the Fates could be better than they currently are. Sticking with the same pretty much subject of what we would like in some of our hopes with or for Stormblood, we got Michael Dunstan. He writes, Aquapolis is and Palace of the Dead are something I plan on doing a lot when the returning player feature comes out with 3.5. Currently, that's what I'm waiting to start playing again. I've only been watching your vids for a few days, so sorry if I bothered you with debates over your Spider-Man shirt vid, but keep up the good work, dude. Well, thanks, Michael. I'm really happy to have you, and I'm always happy to have a debate. Nobody ever needs to, agree or have to come to the same conclusions that I do. I like, having those types of conversations, and obviously one of the things I always try to cultivate, especially here, it is I guess a channel of respect where we might not always agree on the various topics or how certain things are done, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna be obstinate to you or think you foolish or something like that. And so always feel free to challenge my views and opinions on things. I think that's how we grow in a way. I just always, from my perspective, try to do that very respectfully for everybody. Try to hear them out and their what they're asking and what their opinions are, because I think they are valid. Gaming is a very passionate, hobby. We have strong opinions about everything. Things can get heated, and I think that's where sometimes the written text that people see can often be misunderstood sometimes as aggressive. That's why if you ever notice any of my comments, you'll see that I probably use way too many smiley face emojis just so they can continue to communicate like, yes, this is a good idea, but no, I'm not angry or upset. It's amazing actually how that helps me out as I at my job. Is when I communicate like, hey, here's what we need to do, here's what what has to be done, smiley face emoji. So I usually, with all the guys that I work with, they just drop a smiley face in there, because engineers, sometimes we can be pretty direct and blunt, and we don't mean to be. So anyway, I go about it in a way that I do my best. Hopefully that's coming across. And if you do any kind of emoji analysis, if you are up on South Park, you know what I mean, you could probably see everything I've ever done, and thankfully I would say that it's probably not horrible stuff that's online. But no one ever has to agree with me. It's always fun when people say yeah they do, because it's like, great, I'm not nuts. But all in all, we were happy to have you. We're happy to have your debate and your opinions, and obviously you said that you're new, so welcome, as well as anybody else who's like you, who's watching this video, so welcome as well. So also, the returning player feature for 3.5, that's gonna be interesting. When you do come back, if you don't mind, leave me a comment like on one of the videos to let me know what your experience with it is. I'm not a returning player, so technically I won't necessarily be able to experience that, so obviously always looking for feedback and how I can manage that information better as well. So thank you very much. Great comment. Okay, so then CW Rage writes, definitely some open world or some world content like world bosses that drop useful gear and aren't fate based or hunt connected, but I could see that being a miss for sure. And so here is, absolutely. I don't think that they need to take it out of the fate system completely. They can always make that system something evolved. Right now fates are blue. You have many color spectrums in which that you can communicate there's something big happening here. But you could always lock down those specialized fates to maybe an alliance, and you can balance it that way. The challenge they have with fates right now is that, yeah, it's open, so anybody can come join and throw in some damage. So it's difficult to create an interesting fight when, it could be one person who's trying to tackle it, or it could be somebody who's got, 60 people all in one zone trying to tackle the same content. But at the same time, I think the biggest drawback that I've had with Fates is that there really isn't a lot of useful gear. Like you said, when the game launched, Yoshi P had stated that he was more concerned that, from people having to do a certain fate to get a piece of gear to advance. And I understand the sentiment. I don't necessarily agree with it from a design decision, because it would be really cool, even if it was glamour stuff, who knows now, to be able to include various things into Fates, as well as even, almost our tombstones, that one or two or something where you're always kind of being rewarded for it. I find myself really not doing them, and then they'll do something to make them, valuable again to high-end players, and they'll go about and having to, basically repeat that process, and it seems to cycle in and out depending on what type of content is preferred. Sounds like my daughter is crying. I'll be right back. All right, so next we've got the Manstar. I would like them to connect the open world to the dungeons like an 11. Like if you run into the entrance to Amdapor Keep, you should be able to zone into that dungeon from there. When you go inside, solo or with friends, non-duty finder, have some mobs inside like 11, but no bosses. Some would be even more dangerous than others, and they could create a new type of content that involves going into the dungeons, hunting for coffers like AF gear in 11, for example. Doing that would make the world feel more connected and bigger, because right now the dungeons are just names on a list in Duty Finder. I bet most people would have to think hard where most of them are in the open world. I think this is a really interesting idea, especially being able to go into that dungeon and clearing it, after you've cleared it, like it's just another zone, because that's what it is. Now, I don't know from a technology perspective and how the game's designed, because all of those zones are part of this instant, shared, data center, process. But the idea of being able to go in there, even to gather, or like you said, to hunt various different things would be interesting. One of the things in a separate, completely different game Destiny did was with the Taken King, you had to go and do some certain quests, and they actually took you into those quests into PvP maps that you've seen when playing PvP, but now you're in here for a PvE content quest and a fight, that was fascinating. It was actually exciting and engaging that they were able to, in this case, they're actually reusing resources that they already had, but there's no reason to say that Final Fantasy XIV can't do that. So I actually like that idea. I think it's pretty solid. All right, so Dwight Roy writes, my excitement for this expansion has just reached new bounds. Good lord, the entire time I've been playing A Realm Reborn and Heavensward, I've been seeing the influence of Matsuno's brilliance. Hints and traces of Final Fantasy XII and tactics everywhere. And now they finally got him to come aboard. Prepare for some next level plot elements and writing. The only way I could get more excited for this is that they officially announced Samurai, preferably as a tank class, although I'll take DPS as well. So thanks so much for the video. Well, thanks, Dwight. I think you bring up a really good point. 12 and Tactics were phenomenal games, and I love the Evil East things, and so I talked about that in previous videos, and no need to kind of just continue to go over that. But in this case, yeah, I'm really hoping, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can do, and the concept of the guest creators is exciting, and especially the realization that Yoshi P said that, yeah, there's a lot of developers that play Final Fantasy XIV, and, especially in the history of Final Fantasy, I'm sure we've seen tons of developers, so it's really cool and interesting to see them bringing that in. So I can't wait to see the effects of it. I'm hoping it's as good as I'm hoping it would be. I'm trying to keep my expectations realistic and realize that it probably isn't going to solve all of the world's problems, but for the most part, it should be exciting content, and I hope that we not only continue to see hints of it with 12 and Tactics within 14, but outside of just even the Alliance raid, we can continue to see those influences in other things as well down the road. That would be, I think, something that's not just exciting, but it's something that is exciting over a long period of time. So thanks very much for that. Also, if we're keeping track, points, for you shooting for Samurai. So we will see. We'll later below we'll cover kind of the Blue Mage Samurai debate. Okay, actually, when I said later, I mean now. All right, so let's get into Blue Mage versus the Samurai. So a lot of really good comments posted on it, so I'm going to kind of go over them in rapid fire. I'm going to focus in on a couple and just really kind of break it down. So, Azure Knight says, Spider-Man t-shirt equals Blue Mage. I can see it being more set up actually as a healer, just thinking about Stratego from Final Fantasy VI, but being able to do more damage, more like Scholar. I'd like to see more hybrid type jobs come into this game, because if they continue as is, it's going to get extremely boring. Well, you bring up an interesting point, especially about Stratego, and if I'm pronouncing it wrong, well, he's fictional, so oh well. However, it would be interesting to see how they did that. I was, obviously in the video thinking Gao for his ability to go with the herd, but you're absolutely right. And, Stratego is officially, categorized as a Blue Mage in Final Fantasy VI, so you might be absolutely right. Should be interesting. And yes, like if we keep getting, and my fear is not just with jobs, is that we just get, reskins of the current jobs that we have. Go level this job that you already have, and we're going to call it X. I don't see that happening. I think I see Yoshi P and the development team, like they're pretty talented, continue to work and keep that at bay. But I agree with the sentiment. So who knows? Blue Mage, Samurai, Healer, both. All right, so Kyle Nat follows up. No, they don't want to do both DPSs. If there were only 2 jobs, Yoshi said no partial role releases. So Kyle's talking about that if the Samurai is released and there are 2 jobs, so they're not going to have a Samurai DPS and a Red Mage DPS. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know necessarily, but I think, I can see where he's coming from. I think there was a lot of comments like Kyle's, really referencing more of the queue times, that as people would queue in, that if there's just 2 new DPS jobs, people are going to flock to them because they're interested in checking them out, which is going to lead to a high demand for tanks and healers. And so in that case, now there'll be plenty of people leveling, but at some point that could definitely be a problem. It might be a problem from day one, but splitting in between a tank and a DPS would mean there'd probably be a high demand for healers. So unless you do, and I don't think you need to do the Holy Trinity every time, but unless you do the Holy Trinity, chances are there's going to be a queue time, especially with an expansion. And if you're playing any real job, it just depends. I think that tanks are probably going to still be in higher demand than anything else. So who knows? All right, moving on. All right, so Boss Collins 634 says, calling 3 jobs. Samurai, I think it should be a DPS, but as a one-handed sword tank. Dancer as a mobile healer buff specialist, a la Bard songs, but they enhance everyone instead of lowering Bard's DPS. And Red Mage, obviously, but speaking towards Blue Mage tank, genius thinking. Well, thanks. Flattery will get you everywhere. They have to be out front with the get hit abilities to use them. Taking that one step further, imagine the enhancement of PvP in the upcoming expansion. I heard somewhere Square Enix was trying to push PvP. Now, picture a new role, and if we discuss the WoW Druid, but take into account the Final Fantasy X upgrade system with the nodes, the customability of early classes, not jobs but classes, and the push for PvP, speculation, imagine a character you grow on your own. You have a Blue Mage that learns spells, but not from enemies, but from fellow adventurers. What good is Stone Gaze if it doesn't affect bosses? No. You have a Blue Mage and you want it to be a heavy leather clad tank. Gotta take it to PvP, get hit by Rage of Hathalon, Heavy Swing, or something while they are using their damage mitigation spells. You must learn to be a tank from a tank. Same for DPS. You have to face them in PvP and you can learn your class that way. Or make a new style class. What breaks the mold is if you want to be heals. Gotta go through raids, get healed, and learn by watching healers. I think that would work. Long post ended. Okay, so I love this post. I love the thinking about it. I don't necessarily think that's something that's going to work in this era of games in an online game in that sense. However, it does seem very similar to Final Fantasy II's system of you get hit a lot, you're going to get more hit points. You cast a lot of spells, you're going to be better at casting spells. So it seems very intuitive to doing something over and over again and then adjusting to it. Now, Final Fantasy II system, not necessarily the most popular. It seemed to be pretty heavily broken. I would think that if they integrated this type of system, they would have to look at balancing and just the sheer amount of volume, because if you can only go into PvP with this particular job, that would alienate a lot of people who want to play the job but don't want to necessarily do it from PvP. But I do like the way you're thinking. I actually love it. It's like the in a perfect world, maybe this would work where it would make sense, but I just can't see it working in Final Fantasy XIV the way it is today. But keep thinking, especially outside the box, because you never know, that could lead you to some really cool stuff in the end. Okay, so next we've got Frederick, who who posts, "In before Samurai is a healer. Stand still while I slash you in half to heal you." I love it. And so regarding if Samurai is the next job, then Sanger Sunvolt says that means Samurai is going to be a tank, frowny face. Yeah, like if Samurai goes to be a tank, I think there's going to be some people who've been wanting Samurai but didn't want it to be a tank. And if it is a tank, they might be disappointed. That might not be what they were hoping for. Not that it always is going to be that way. Not that the game always has to be everything to everybody, because it will never do that. It will never succeed at it. But I do get the sentiment. So we don't know what it is. We don't know whether it's Samurai, Blue Mage, or Dancer, or Spider Mage. So don't worry about it right now. Like, all we can do is speculate and be excited. There are really no rules. We can only we can infer based off of past events, but that doesn't necessarily dictate the cause of kind of future actions in that case. Genius Stewart writes, "No, Blue Mage, no, I want Samurai. Blue is boring, and Sam should have been in before Ninja." So there's some people who want Samurai, but for the majority of it, from the comments, at least from what I've seen and what I've read, Blue Mage seems to win out. So we'll kind of go over a couple of Blue Mage posts now. Moragoth says, maybe. Apparently they deleted the tweet saying that they limit it to 2. Then that would leave them free to do Sam as a DPS. If they found some sort of clever way to make Blue Mage a tank, e.g. interpreting the absorption of powers to allow shapeshifting of some sort. Also, there's already a Black Mage, it'd be blue, and that I think is because I accidentally said BLM in the description, but I stand by my dyslexia. I'm not the best at spelling, so anyway. I think if they go with 1 to 2 for future expansions, they could get away with 3 this time. Although I prefer they focus in on 2, and to be frank, I expect it. For some of the reasons that you articulated in the video, it could be Dancer, Samurai, and Blue at this point. I'm not expecting anything new just yet. Personally, I think that Blue could theoretically be made into any format of the Trinity, e.g. you could argue that they learn from observation, in which case a DPS would make sense. I agree that the tank would be the likeliest format, however. And so, yeah, I think what you bring up a good point. Dancer, Samurai, Blue, all of it is really on the table right now, and it could even be something completely out of left field. They did the James Bond shirt, and and we were all like, what could it be? And then they eventually revealed Machinist. So they kind of were like, okay, we know we were getting guns. Well, that's great. In this case, we don't even have a clue what the weapon might be. Somebody in the comments did suggest mace if it is Blue Mage, and I like that a lot, rather than maybe scimitar. It could be a blunt type weapon and things like that. So anyway, yeah. And then we got some more Blue Mage. So Jinxie 712. I like the theory on getting attacked by a spider and having him gain spider abilities like Blue Mage. Jamal Curry, the director of Spider-Man angle is a bit of a stretch. My money is on Blue Mage. Spidey got his spider bit by a spider and gained its power. And then Azul Theron, it's more likely Blue Mage because Spider-Man got his powers from a radioactive spider, which is more likely than Sam Raimi. That's a bigger shot in the dark. We'll still get Samurai, but I honestly believe the shirt means Blue Mage. And so, I'm hopeful. I think there's I'm hopeful that we'll see 3 jobs, and that it is, for the majority of people, as much as I would think Dancer would be a good option for maybe a frontline healer to just change up the mold, a Blue Mage tank, a Dancer healer, and a Red Mage DPS. I could honestly probably see more that it's going to be if there was 3 jobs, that it is Blue, Samurai, and obviously Red Mage. So who knows, could be completely wrong about all of this. We'll find out in February. But that kind of concludes the kind of the Q&A. Thank you guys so much for your comments, your questions, and for coming and checking out these videos. We really appreciate it. So can't really say that enough and really express my gratitude. So I just want to say thanks for watching. My name's Brian. This is Work to Game. If you liked this Q&A and this video, hit that thumbs up button. And if you didn't, I hear the other button also works as well. We hope that you keep coming back, so subscribe if you haven't already, and if you are subscribed, thanks for being a subscriber. We really appreciate it. Let us know in the comments below what questions and comments you have regarding this video, as well as many of our other stuff. So until next time, I hope you have a fantastic week and take care.